had my first car that I took apart and put together when I was about 12. I don't think I ever owned a car that I didn't modify in some way. So pretty much I'm a self-taught mechanic. My history with automobiles goes back to the time I was 12. Actually, I got my driver's license at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, got my first speeding ticket at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I built a variety of cars, nothing real fancy or nothing real high speed. Had a Cadillac that did 128 miles an hour at the Dry Lakes in 1960. I lived in Los Angeles, West Los Angeles, when Carroll Shelby built his first cars, which he was selling for, I believe, $11,000, and that was an astronomical amount of money to me, so I couldn't consider owning one. Well, the truth of the matter is that I had absolutely no intention of even purchasing a car. I was walking past this place, going from the convention to my hotel, stopped and looked at it, thought about it, and 2 beers and a pizza later, it was mine. 2 beers, a pizza, and $24,000. One of the things I was so, I guess, taken by the beauty of the car when I saw it, I didn't realize that it didn't have seat belts, it didn't have a handbrake, it didn't have windshield wipers. It was basically a running automobile with a whole bunch of parts missing. So my the first part of the venture was basically completing the building of the car. And in 1999, I had a minor altercation with a curb, and I put the car away for 10 years. When I finally had the time and felt like I could start working on it 2.5 years ago, I brought it home and started taking it apart and redesigned the chassis. When I started taking the car apart, I basically removed everything I didn't like about it, which meant that I had destroyed the frame all the way back to the firewall. And I started from there and designed the whole chassis from the firewall forward, and I designed all of the front suspension parts, using some factory parts, but I fabricated a lot of the parts. I have a lot of tools, I have a lot of equipment at work. I needed a welding machine, a specific type of welding machine to do some of this work. I didn't have a lathe at home. I used to have one many years ago, but I had sold it. So I bought a lathe, and then I bought a milling machine. So those 3 pieces of equipment were the primary, they were the primary machinery that I used to build the car. I tend to customize, build my own parts for whatever I'm doing. Part of it is a challenge, part of it is originally probably not having the money to buy factory parts, and so I would make stuff. And when I grew up in the 50s, pretty much everything we had to work with came out of junkyards, and then you started with junk parts and then built whatever you wanted. And I guess I still have that mentality. The initial progress, building the chassis and then painting the chassis and changing fiberglass around the engine compartment, that took quite a bit of time. And then I built a set of headers out of stainless steel, and it took me almost 3 months to build those. I had never welded stainless steel tubing, so there was quite a learning curve, learning what I was doing to get that job done. Money was a consideration to some degree. I didn't go overboard. There were certain key elements that I had to buy where I wasn't willing to make any compromises. There are certain elements of the car that I didn't really have a lot of choices. such as the stainless steel side pipes. They had to be custom built for that car. They were almost $2,500 just for the side pipes. The wheels, are a variety of different wheels available, and I wanted something that was different from anybody else. So the wheel, just having the outer rims of the wheels manufactured was over $2,000. And the paint job, just the paint alone, was almost $2,000, plus the labor to do the paint job, which was another $2,000. So there were a few things that were a lot of money, and on those items, how much I spent wasn't a consideration. But I've always kept in mind the total amount of money that I would put into the car. One of the reasons that I bought this car was that I had intended to build one from a kit. And I knew that if I started out with a kit that I would make a lot of mistakes, that by the time I was done, I would know everything I should have known before I started. Obviously, there's a lot of satisfaction in being able to get in and turn the key and go up the driveway with it and have everything work right. Once I got into the car, I remained focused on getting it done. I planned the work quite thoroughly. I have a file full of drawings and sketches and things to-do lists and punch lists and so forth. So I probably planned this job better than anything I've ever worked on in my history. I don't think I've remained focused on one project as well as I've remained focused on this project. Yeah, I think this is a first for me to get into something and then take it to absolute completion.
I don't really know that much about the car. I did run into a fellow who's in the Cobra business in Los Angeles. Told him a little bit about the car, and he pulled out a picture of this car and a few other Cobras in a show in Mexico in 1996. And apparently the car had been assembled by some people that were setting up a company to build Cobra replicas. I'm hoping that when this gets on YouTube and as people see this video that somebody will recognize some of the elements of the car, or somebody will know the history. So I'm hoping that somebody will see this and send me an email and say, I know about that car. Solve the mystery for me.
So what email address?
427cobra808@gmail.com.